Welcome back to the Imaginary Gallery. It's TJ, your host. Tonight's discussion revolves around psychopaths in the workplace, or you can insert other cluster B types in that title. The cluster B personality disorders include antisocial personality disorder, borderline personality disorder, histrionic personality disorder, and narcissistic personality disorder. For those of you who wish to know what that means, they're all in one group. They share similar characteristics. I figured I'd go through a history of my own experience. I'll be delving deep into the archives of the life that I've lived, experiences I went through that indicated some kind of cluster B something. The first situation was, I was 14 years old, underage to work. I learned that there was a golf course nearby that allowed 14-year-olds. Now, why would I, as a 14-year-old, want money? I was a musician type minded person. There were all kinds of keyboards and gadgets that I wanted to own that my weekly allowance just wouldn't cover. I decided I need to work. I'll get the money for this stuff that way, because I'd be living in my home and I could earn the funds. Well, I went to this golf course. Bear in mind, I was not a golf player. I never played golf. I knew nothing about it. What they had was a snack bar, food service area. And that's what they were hiring for. Figured, well, I could learn that. So I was shown, here's how you make a burger. And they take this frozen Cisco brand patty and slop it down on the grill. I would learn that, and I would learn all these different things. Put the fries in the deep fryer, slide it down into the grease, let it sit for so many minutes. It was pretty simple. I did that. There were other people there who were golf players. In fact, all of the other workers there were golf players. I was just a 14-year-old kid wanting a job. There were some bully types there that thought I was kind of funny because I had probably a colored streak in my hairdo or something that was awkward to them. Would be normal now, today, but back then it was some strange thing, and I'd be taunted by these people. There was this real old geezer lady who worked with us, and I would see her every so often, but I would do the job and serve the soft drinks and the hot dogs, the hamburglers, whatever they wanted. They allowed us to have free beverages. So we had a fountain, which had the usual Coke, Dr. Pepper, Sprite, blah, blah, blah. And we were allowed to take one of the company glasses and simply fill it up, and we'd drink from it all day. I would keep my little drink off by the window or somewhere out of view. One particular day, I went over to take a drink from my glass, and I took it, and all of a sudden, I felt this burning sensation down my throat. It was like ammonia, breathing ammonia. And I was like, and it turned out, I found out from the coworkers, that one of them, the bullies, thought it would be funny if they took some kind of ammonia type cleaner and pour it into my drink so I would taste it. And afterward they were saying,
we do it all the time to
the old lady.
She doesn't ever notice. We do it to her.
And I had thought, well, it's poison. I was taken to the hospital. The bottle said not to induce vomiting, so I was not induced. I guess it wasn't enough to cause a problem, but I was terrified at the moment because I'd never had such a sensation before. So my question is, what kind of person would do that and why? So they didn't like my little green hair streak or whatever I had. Is that justification to poison someone? What if I would have died? What would they have done then?
Oh, we did it as a joke, but he died.
Who knows? Second example. After that experience, I still worked there for a little while longer. Then eventually I became old enough to work in 16-year-old places. I'd fled the scene. Well, then I found a job on this road they call the Miracle Mile in this area, where teenagers would hang out all over the place in different parking lots and restaurants and fast food places. It was like the in place to be, which I never really was part of that scene. Well, this job was right there on that scene. And it was Mrs. Winter's Chick-fil-A and Biscuits, which doesn't exist anymore as far as I know. But it was a job. I applied for it. I applied for several up and down that street. I got the job. Well, my job was a biscuit maker, so I'd sit back there and roll this dough up and do whatever with it. And one of the co-workers had told me,
oh, tonight you're going to do backwash.
And I said, what's that? And it was this area in the back with these big sinks designed to hold very big pots and pans and so on. And the idea was to scrub it with soap and a brush. Well, I had done it maybe one time for a very short time. This guy had said,
oh, tonight you're going to do backwash because you're fast at it.
And my brain was thinking, fast at it. I've only done it once, and it wasn't for very long. Now I realize nobody wanted to do it, and I was the new person that nobody knew, so I was given that job to do. These were kids I would never have hung around with outside of the workplace. They all had like their own little cliques and teams together, and I was an outsider. But I'd worked there for a while, and then the schedule would be posted up in the office. If you were there during this week, you would then go into the office, look at the schedule, and you'd take a little piece of paper and write down your schedule for the next week. It would say like Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I was a part-time worker. One particular week I went in there. Next to my name, the boxes for each day was blank. And I had thought, well, where's my schedule? And so I went to the boss lady and said, I just checked the schedule. I don't show that I'm on there.
That's next week's schedule.
I didn't really have the words then. Today I'd be like, well, do I still work here? What are you doing? Why are you taking my name off? But then I was so young, naive, and probably scared. I was like, oh, okay. And then just accepted the fact that I didn't have any hours the next week. There was no explanation, like,
Guys, most of you who work 20 hours a week, be expecting to have fewer.
but they didn't give any such announcement, which is sick. Well, I had a friend that was in the scene of those child nightclubs I used to go to underage, and she had said I should come down to work with her at a place called Showbiz, which became Chuck E. Cheese later. And I was thinking, yeah, that sounds kind of fun, but no thanks. But due to my experience at this chicken and biscuit place, I thought, well, I'm not getting any hours here, even though they paid more than the Showbiz would. So I thought, okay, how about it? And she said, well, why don't you come in this Sunday from 1 to 9? You can try it out. It sounded like a trial run, like I would just go there and do the work, and if I liked it, say I'd like to work here. It turned out that's exactly what it was, and I filled the shift. And I realized it was actually fun. I was with a girl I knew. It wasn't this place full of strangers who were in a different scene than I was. It was a girl who was into the same stuff I was, which when you're a teenager, music is one of the most important When you're a teenager, music is one of the most important things, at least it was in my world. We were connected in that way, and there were some bullies there too, which we'll get to in a moment. But yes, I worked there with her, and it was fun. Plus, I could go back to the walk-in freezer or cooler and smash a birthday cake by accident, and then get to eat it and share it with the peers, because they wouldn't serve a smashed cake to the public. When working there, I was in the dining room, which means I hosted the birthday parties. I also cleaned the tables and took the trash from the tables to the trash bin as well as to the dumpster outside. I worked with a variety of different people. Well, there was one particular girl, reminds me of Olivia Newton-John, a little blonde, full of energy and action, and she happened to date this boy that worked in the kitchen. And he was a big muscular type boy, but we were all kids like 16, 17, around those ages. And I'm a talker person, so if I work with you, I'm going to talk your ear off. If you don't want to hear it, tough, it's going to come out. But I did that to her, and I would have fun with her, and we'd laugh about this and that. Apparently her little boyfriend in the kitchen would see this interaction, because we'd come to the pickup window to take out the orders, and we'd always be like, oh yeah, blah, 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 oh, blah, blah, blah. And he'd see that, and I guess he said something to her once, like,
How come you're always talking to TJ like that, but you don't talk to me that much?
I got the idea that he was jealous that I was talking with her all the time. Well, then she took it a step further, and she said,
You know, I tell so-and-so that you pinch my ass all the time, and it's funny.
which I had never done. I'd never touched any part of her. But apparently she felt the need to tell that to the boyfriend. I don't know, that was just her own thing. Weeks and months went by, and I was probably in a happy mood. One day, I knew that I'd never done that before. She and the boyfriend were together on a break by the soft drink machine, filling up their little cups. So for fun, for the first time ever, I walked right up behind her rear end and went like this, pinch, and then walked away. The boyfriend didn't like that too much. So a few minutes later, I'd come out of the dining room with my hands full of dirty dishes, and he had in his hand a spray bottle, a cleaner of some kind, and he sprayed it right in my face.
I saw you touching ass. What's the matter? I thought you were a fag. What are you doing that for?
I figured, what's this? I said, oh, that's just something I say so I can get to all the girls. And he sprayed my face again, and it went into my eyes. So I'm like, oh. I ended up being taken to the hospital again. Luckily, it wasn't anything serious. But what is it with people spraying stuff on me? My question is, what kind of person takes a poisonous fluid and squirts it in the face of someone else they work with? We could be strangers on the street and he doesn't like something I do and then sprays it and runs, but this is a place where we work together. Later, after this, I could tell it was forced. But the boy came up to me and he said,
I'm sorry that I sprayed you with that.
it was one of those apologies you know is fake. It's one of the ones that somebody said,
You go and you apologize to him right now.
But I'm not sorry!
I don't care. Just tell him you are.
so he did. I didn't buy it, but I figured, okay, well, that ends the story. No problems occurred, luckily. Another event happened outside the workplace. It's related to work. One particular evening, it was not dark yet. I was driving this old, big, huge Chevrolet Impala, which looked like a boat, from Showbiz. I was driving up that Miracle Mile Road. I was passing by a Red Lobster. There was a car coming out of the Red Lobster. I could see its driver, and her head was looking. But the problem was, I was coming down this way. She was coming out this way towards like a T, and her head was looking that direction, and I was, of course, coming from this direction. She apparently didn't look back to see that I was coming, and she started to pull forward into the main road. And I saw this. I panicked and thought, what is she doing? Oh. So I slammed on the gas, figuring I'd just get around her by swerving out of her way. I tried to swerve out of her way, but it wasn't fast enough. The front of her fancy car hit the back of my old beat-up Chevrolet Impala, and I felt a boom. But it wasn't serious. It wasn't like cars were rolling or spinning on the ground. It was just like a bumper car. That's what it felt like. This was something new. I'd never been involved in an accident before, and I didn't really know what to do. I realize now you're supposed to stop and wait for police to assess the situation. I was a 16 or 17-year-old kid. I was just scared. I knew I shouldn't go run off, but I also knew I shouldn't just stay right there. So I drove up a little bit and turned into the next parking lot, which had a Raskin Bobbins ice cream store. So I figured I'll park there. And then I walked inside. The clerks were like,
Can I help you?
and I said, yes. Do you have a phone I could use? I just had a wreck. I need to call my parents.
Oh, sure.
And they gave me the phone. I called my father and said, I just had an accident. I don't know what to do. This lady ran into me. I told him where I was at. And he said, just stay where you are. So I thought, okay, I'll stay here. A few minutes passed and finally he showed up. There were people gathered all around this parking lot, and this car that hit the back of mine, the whole front of it was like ripped open and hanging outwards with wires and all kinds of stuff. And of course the back of mine was just simply shifted a little bit to the left. So this lady had her head in her hands. Oh. As I was walking with my own father over the hill towards the restaurant's parking lot, people were like, there he is, like I was some kind of criminal. Remember, I was driving. I tried to dodge her, but wasn't fast enough, and she plowed right into the back of my car. The police were like,
Are you the one driving this car?
and I ended up going into a car with this policeman so he could give me some questions. But he had asked something about,
What happened?
and I told him, and he said, well,
Did you get out of your car and go to check in their car and see if everyone's okay?
and I said no, because it was just, remember, a bump. It wasn't like she hit my car and went in circles and twirled around. It was, I got bumped and I kept going. And so he said,
You just got yourself a hit and run ticket.
I was thinking, wait a minute, hit and run. I was the one who got hit. Is there such a thing as being hit but then running? I had never heard of such a thing. But he had said that and I just thought, okay, whatever, because I didn't realize at that time that's a serious offense. So I got out of the car. Well, then later they asked my father questions, and he had said to them, well, he called me and told me he was in a wreck, and I told him to stay where he was. And so the policeman said,
No, I talked to your father. You're not going to get the hit and run ticket. Your father said he told you to stay at the ice cream shop, so it's okay. No ticket for that.
so I got 0 tickets. The sick part was that people were talking about the event as it happened, and the lady was saying,
He didn't have his lights on.
but the thing was, even the police knew the time of day it was. It wouldn't have mattered if the lights were on or off, they said, because it's daylight. Nice try. And then I saw some of those bullies from the Showbiz restaurant that would like snicker and make faces because I'd look funny. And they were like, oh, I saw the whole thing. You didn't do anything wrong. She hit you. And I was surprised thinking, wow, they're going to come to my side. But they did, which was surprising. I'm not sure why. It was basically a lady probably driving her husband's car to show her how good she was at it, and then she screwed it up. And that's why her head was buried in her hands.
I am the Korona-virus. I realized that, but I don't want to catch the coronavirus, so I took TJ's car when he didn't know, because he was busy. I snuck out. I went to the dollar store. I thought I'd get myself some hand sanitizer. You know what? They didn't have none. The shelves were barren. I thought, well, maybe some Clorox wipes. Maybe that'll help. Gone. Empty. I'm thinking, what's going on? I needed some. And I asked the clerk and I was told, oh, we ain't got none of that. So I figured out here, well, the store was really busy full of fools, lines everywhere. I just figured I'd look around for something else that might be used, that could be equivalent. And I had some lattes for lunch. Kinda got to it, and my insides needed to be relieved. So I went to one of the clerks and I said,
Excuse me, where's the ladies' room?
and I was informed, rudely,
We don't have a public restroom.
oh really, you don't? I'm not the public. So, pulled a little trick. Since I am the Narcopath, I don't care about telling the truth as long as I get what I want. I said,
Excuse me, but I'm with child. I'm not like everyone else. I really need to go more than anyone else may need to go.
and the poor little girl, bless her heart, she said, okay, I'll let you go. You two should go down this hall, and you turn down here and go down these steps, and blah, blah, blah. And you know what happened when I went down there? I could not even get the bathroom door open. What did they have down there? They had boxes and boxes of hand sanitizer and Clorox wipes and other materials like that in brand new boxes piled to the ceiling. They don't have any hand sanitizer. They don't have any Clorox wipes. This is a scam. They must have been ordered to keep that stuff from the public to make it look like this is some kind of terrible situation. You know what I did? I took a few bottles of hand sanitizer out of one of the boxes. I put one in each breast. I got an instant breast implant job. Went into the toilet, did my thing, and then I was out of there. Don't believe what you're told. These people are disgusting. I'm the only one who's allowed to lie. These people have no right doing it to me. Especially to me. I suppose I owe you a funeral confession. Especially after what you've been seeing lately. I know it was always a mystery to you how I could just leave you like that. Have what appeared to be a brand new relationship so fast. Just after we made love that one afternoon, you saw me in the arms of someone else the very next day, as if you never existed. Well, there's something you don't know about me on the Narcopath. What I do is I look, I search. I'm always on the lookout for a new supply. That's what you call it, isn't it, TJ?
You should know by now that it is.
Yes, supply. I needed supply. I'm always on the lookout for supply. That means all those times we were out together and I treated you like you were mine and mine only, and I didn't look at anyone else, at least when you were around. When do you realize those moments you were busy, naive as you were?
I was off scouting out of the people when I said I had to go to the restroom. Anytime you went to the restroom, I was unzipping my top another notch just to show the guy next to our table, and I'd sure bend over and snap if I could. I'm full of tricks. You just didn't know. You didn't know a thing about me.
You think you do. That's why when you tried to tell me that I was a narcissist, I told you, don't you try to tell me what I am. You don't know who I am.
And that's true. You don't, obviously. But yes, I'm always on the lookout for supply. That doesn't mean I won't pretend like it's forever with you and give you what they call, what's the word? Future
Fake.
future faking.
I'll say things to you like,
Oh, if we move in together and get married, oh, it's gonna be so wonderful. I'm gonna do this for you and I'm gonna do that for you. Oh, it'll be so fabulous.
oh, that's part of my game. Because you're supposed to say to yourself, if she was looking for someone else, why would she say that if I asked me together forever? Bingo. So you'll think that I believe what I'm saying? See how it works? And the fact of the matter is, I've been making love to the new person, at least for the past 6 months of our relationship. I just told him that I was in a really bad abusive relationship.
And that I was trying to get away from it and I didn't want to get hurt. Oh, but don't interfere because he'll kill you. He's crazy.
Those are the kind of things I've said to the new one. He might know. Sorry for me, I would fake tears for him. One of those crisis actors.
And I would say, oh, he just doesn't treat me right.
And he believed it. And finally, once his wife was officially divorced, ta-ta to you. Of course, I would never say any of this to you, so it looked like we'd been together forever when you saw us on social media. The fact was, we pretty much had for 6 months. And enough about that can sometimes be forever. But you didn't need to know any of us, it would have hurt your feelings. I didn't want to hurt you. So I carried on as if everything was fine, led you to believe that we were going to be together forever. Little did you realize during temper, I was setting things up for my new man, and I didn't need you anymore. So I just walked away. That's how I could easily walk away into someone else's arms, because I found someone new. You were starting to figure out too much about me anyway. I can't have that. I need somebody who doesn't know about the things I do behind closed doors and behind their back. It's none of their business. Who cares if I was setting up another wedding with someone else after talking to you about us having one? That's why sometimes when you meet people like me, we'll seem scatterbrained, like we'll say,
Oh, I'm married right now. Or, oh, I'm getting married. Oh, you know what? I decided I didn't want to be with her. I want to be with you.
that kind of stuff. Real people don't do that stuff. Come on. Real people, if they're in love with someone, they're in love with someone. If it ends, it's going to be a long, bitter process. For me, it's like snap your finger and on to the next.
I sometimes have 7 at a time. I'm much more sophisticated than those regular, normal people. I was just too much for you. It's for your own good. Besides, I divorced him and found 3 others because he was cheating and abusing me. That's what I told people. They bought it.
It's a great line. It gets me what I want, huh? The Narcopath always gets what it wants. Like it or not.